When I was a little boy, my grandfather liked to tell me scary stories before I went to bed. He was a tall old man with a gray mustache and bushy eyebrows that gave him a stern look. He was actually very kind and gentle with me. And because I was a very small child, I believed every word he said. And so I was very afraid because those stories were scary, not for children at all. It seemed to amuse my grandfather, and whenever there was an opportunity in the evening by candlelight, he would begin his frightening tale in a long voice. What frightened me most was the story of the people who drowned in the swampy forest, luring travelers into their deadly embrace, drowning them in the mire and devouring their flesh. I imagined them as pale ghosts with black eye sockets crawling out of the swamp. I am an adult now and do not believe in these stories, but one day on a hunting trip, this gruesome story came back to me. It happened at the beginning of March, when the spring sun had already melted the snow in the forest, but the hares had not yet had time to change color completely. My best childhood friend Carl and I decided to go hunting in our woods near the village. We left early in the morning in his old Ford. The hunt was a success, and by evening we had shot 3 hares and a lot of feathered game. It was dusk when we, tired and satisfied, went to the car at the edge of the forest to spend the night. It was dangerous to drive on the narrow forest road in the dark. We built a fire and took out the prepared food to warm ourselves and celebrate the successful hunt. We sat by the fire, then climbed into the car and quickly fell asleep after an exhausting day. I woke up late in the night from the cold. The door where Carl slept was wide open. I put on my jacket and started the engine to warm up. Even though it was spring, the nights were still cold. Carl was nowhere to be seen. His shotgun was right where it had been. Maybe he went to take a leak, I thought, and decided to wait. But more than half an hour passed and he was still gone. I was getting seriously worried. I locked the car and cautiously walked into the woods with a flashlight to find my missing friend. "Carl!" I called desperately into the darkness, but there was no answer. Only silence surrounded me. It was night, and I could barely make my way through the thicket, tripping over tree roots. Suddenly I heard a faint, barely audible moan. It was Carl's voice. He was calling for help. I ran as fast as I could towards the sound. As I ran out into the clearing, I came upon a swamp that glistened ominously in the moonlight, already thawed from winter. In some places there were thawed patches, but in others there was still thin ice. It was dangerous to walk on it. I could fall through at any moment. I looked around and saw the silhouette of someone about 10 meters from me. "Carl, is that you? What's going on?" I yelled, running closer. But there was no response. I had no choice but to dive into the ice to pull my friend out. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a deceptive image, just an old snag. It was too dangerous to go on without a rope or a stick. I decided to go back. But as I turned around, my foot caught on something slimy and I almost fell headfirst into the mud. It was a miracle to get out. I was shivering with cold, wet, covered in mud and slime. I also had some algae on my leg that I could not get off. I struggled to get to the car. I remembered that Carl and I had walkie-talkies for hunting. I took out my radio and tried to call my friend. There was a crackle of static, and then I heard a faint signal to my left. I followed the sound along the edge of the swamp and came to a small water hole. Shining my flashlight, I saw Carl's body lying motionless in the water. His face was blue and his body was cold. I realized he had been dead for hours. I struggled to pull the heavy body to shore and shouldered him, preparing to carry him to the car. But then Carl's faint voice came again, calling for help. Frightened, I laid my friend's body on the ground and looked around the swamp by the light of my flashlight. But there was no one there, just a black, menacing swamp. The voice grew louder and louder, as if surrounding me on all sides. I grabbed Carl's cold body and held him to me so I could run as fast as I could. I felt something pull my foot into the water. I fell to the ground with Carl, his hands somehow clenched into fists, grabbing me by the collar. I tried to get up and cut off whatever was dragging me into the water, but Carl's body wouldn't let me. My body began to slowly sink into the viscous liquid. Suddenly, my whole body felt tight and cold. The water was already at my throat. The only thing that saved me was that I managed to pull off my boot with my other foot. When I reached the shore, I ran as fast as I could away from that damn place. With difficulty, I made it to my car and drove far away from here. What happened to Carl remains a mystery, but I'm never going back to those woods again.